Is the Philippines low-key taking over Asia right now? Maybe you could argue music-wise and culture-wise for sure. But is it even more than that? Is it even more qualities in their society that's kind of making them somewhat of a household name in Asia? Let's see. Let's find out in this video.
Sa pagsalubong ninyo, hindi ako nagkamali sa pagpili.
70 record closing highs so far for the Dow.
Blasting through a ceiling. In a record-setting IPO.
In other business news, the Philippines became Southeast Asia's fastest growing economy last year.
The United States
Economy, that's the word I was looking for in the intro. Is their economy getting better too?
approves the sale of $5.58 billion in F-16 fighter jets to the Philippines.
Oh, so we're helping y'all out too, man.
Hey there, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into this wild shift happening in Asia right now. And no, I'm not talking about China or Japan. I'm talking about the Philippines. And if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting us know what global trends or emerging markets you want us to cover next. This country that everyone's been sleeping on is suddenly making some serious moves.
In other business news, the Philippines became Southeast...
Did that say Pog Pog? Wait. Oh, it is. Oh, it's literally, yeah, it's the chicken bones. It's the food that goes in the waste. All right.
Business news, the Philippines became
I don't know what that
Southeast Asia's
does.
fastest growing economy last year.
They went from being this struggling island nation that people barely talked about.
He wants to get her kid's school, but he got no money.
It only eats around 13 to 16% of the gross sales. But now, 20% na talaga.
When I started volunteering, I remember there was one woman who had 18 children. When those 18 children became adults, we introduced them to contraceptives, and now they have fewer children.
To becoming this quiet force that's getting everyone's attention. Before we dive deeper, let me just give you a quick Philippines 101. We're talking about an archipelago with over 7,000 islands and about 100 million people. And it's been through a lot. Spanish colonization, American rule, Japanese occupation during World War II, and then the whole Marcos dictatorship thing. So yeah, they've had their fair share of challenges, but that's what makes their current trajectory so impressive. While all these big economies...
And also, a few days ago, I reacted to a video of them letting a lot of refugees in from Ukraine, and throughout history, they've always done that. And all, like, the Philippines itself has just always, like, the people have always had a lot of compassion, which is another really impressive thing, because not only is their country growing, they came from a lot of struggles, but they've always, even through those struggles, have always had a lot of compassion and always been a helping hand for other countries in the world. So that's why, that might be a reason why they're starting to see more gain for themselves, is because how much they've helped others in the past.
We're freaking out over wars, crazy inflation, and broken supply chains. The Philippines economy in 2024 has been growing way faster than experts thought it would.
Okay.
We're talking about 6.5% GDP growth. That's more than double what the US is seeing right now. In the latest World Bank report, they call the Philippines one of the most dynamic economies in the East Asia region. And it's not just some lucky break. They've been putting in the work. Their president, Marcos Jr., the son of the former dictator, has actually been pushing this Build Better More program that's continuing what the previous administration started.
This is the foundation that we will build upon. As the President pronounced, we must keep the momentum and aspire for build better, more, PBM, and faster.
We ramp up annual public infrastructure spending to 6% of GDP, consistent with the Build Better More program. We will incorporate the elements of sustainability.
They've got these massive infrastructure projects happening all over the place. We're talking about bridges, highways, airports, the whole deal. The Metro Manila subway, that's a $7 billion project
the traffic.
That's going to change millions of people.
My bad. My bad. Sorry. That's the biggest thing. When I go there, the traffic is so crazy.
Commute every day. The new Manila International Airport, a $15 billion game changer that'll handle somewhere around 100 million passengers a year.
Consultant for the San Miguel-led New Manila International Airport project in Bulacan, one of the largest and most ambitious infrastructure projects in the Philippines.
These aren't just plans on paper. Construction is happening right now.
Okay.
There's a lot of developments in the transportation sector right now. Under the leadership of Secretary Jimmy Bautista,
we will start with high-impact projects that will continue to improve the transportation system throughout the country.
And it's not just in Manila. They're building tech hubs all over the islands. There's this place called Clark, which used to be a U.S. Air Force base, that's now turning into this futuristic smart city. And Cebu, it's becoming the next big IT outsourcing capital.
It is certainly an Asian country, but it's probably also one of the most westernized in terms of culture. Asian countries in the world.
Plus, they've got this young, super educated workforce that's ready to take on anything.
That's
Did
awesome.
you know that the Philippines produces about 500,000 college students every year? And get this, a huge chunk of them are in STEM fields.
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is very important because it pervades every part of our life.
Which is a massive competitive advantage in today's global economy.
Share and collaborate.
Think about that. They have 110 million people, which is actually that's a lot of people. But 500K graduates a year. Not even just students, but graduates in college a year. That's a lot.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The Philippines isn't just focusing on money. They're beefing up their military too. They are investing around $35 billion to modernize everything. New ships, planes, radar systems, the whole nine. Just last month, they commissioned their first ever missile-capable warship, the BRP Jose Rizal, and it's pretty impressive.
Jose Rizal.
It's got anti-air, anti-surface, and anti-submarine warfare capabilities.
They're getting that Intimidator badge.
Coming. They're also getting a bunch of new fighter jets. Remember when the Philippines barely had any working aircraft? Now they're buying F-16s from the US and considering getting some of those Swedish Gripen jets too.
The United States approves the sale of $5.58 billion in F-16 fighter jets to the Philippines.
The US State Department said
Wait, did he just say billion? 5.6 billion?
Greenlighting a sale that includes 20 F-16 jets and related equipment to the Philippines.
I mean, that's a serious upgrade. They're teaming up with countries like the US, Germany, and Japan for defense agreements. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement allows American troops to be stationed at bases across the Philippines again, and that's a huge strategic shift. I was just reading about their joint military exercises with the US Marines in Palawan, which not coincidentally is right next to the contested waters in the China Sea. They're not being subtle about this message. See where the Philippines sits? It's right on the edge of the South China Sea, which basically is the world's most important shipping lane with over $3 trillion in trade moving through there every year. Plus, there's all this untapped oil and gas underneath. About 40% of global shipping passes through this area. We're talking about everything from the iPhone in your pocket to the clothes you're wearing right now. It's that important. So when Chinese ships tried to move in on this place called Sandy Cay, the Philippines did not back down. They sent their own patrol boats and called in their new partners.
Taking you through a very interesting visual that's come in of a face-off between China and Philippines on sea.
One of the Philippines' allies expressed grave concern over China's recent use of water cannons in a side-swiping maneuver against a Philippine vessel.
A China Coast Guard ship
Whoa!
reportedly fired water cannons and sideswiped a Philippine Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic
This is fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. What are we doing?
Resources.
There was this wild standoff where Filipino sailors were literally using machetes to cut through barriers that Chinese vessels had set up. And it didn't stop there. There was this incident at 2nd Thomas Shoal where Chinese vessels actually blasted Filipino ships with water cannons. But instead of backing off, the Philippines published all the videos, called out China internationally, and doubled down on its patrols. China noticed, trust me. Now, let's talk economics because this is where things get really juicy. The Philippines economy isn't just growing, it's transforming.
Philippines placed 48th out of 63 economies in the annual Global Competitiveness Report.
My third point is on turning the Philippines into a digital hub in the region.
For decades, they were super dependent on remittances, you know, money sent home by Filipino workers overseas. We're talking about nurses, engineers, seafarers, sending billions billions back home, and that's still important, bringing in about $36 billion a year. But now they've got this booming BPO sector, that's business process outsourcing, call centers, tech support, all that stuff. It's a $30 billion industry employing like 1.5 million people directly.
This industry provides a lot of opportunities to people only if they want to. This industry has taught me a lot of things that I was not able to learn outside of books.
Companies like Accenture, IBM, and JP Morgan Chase have massive operations there. And tourism is making this crazy comeback after the pandemic.
13% of the total employment comes from tourism.
Have you seen pictures of places like Boracay? Absolute paradise. Bro. Tourism brought in over 5 million visitors last year, and they're on track to hit 7.7 million this year.
And I'll be one of them too.
Now hold on to your seats because this is absolutely massive news that's been flying under the radar. The Philippines just made what might be the biggest economic discovery in its history. Back in October 2023, the Department of Energy and Australian company Ratio Petroleum announced they found a huge oil and gas deposit off the coast of Palawan. We're talking
that's money!
About an estimated 3.2 billion barrels of oil and 2.16 trillion cubic feet of
they about to turn into Dubai. GG! All the struggles in history are, and all the compassion they've also had in history, helping others, like I said, good karma's coming. Oil?
Natural gas.
Pinagahanda na ng Pangulong Rodrigo
Oil's
Duterte ang opisyan ng Alegria, Cebu.
These numbers might not mean much to you, but let me put it into perspective.
Yes, please.
That's enough to power the entire Philippines for over 60 years. The Cadlao oil field, which is part of this discovery, is expected to start production in 2025.
A yield of 6 million barrels of oil is expected from the Cadlao oil field once the production begins.
And the crazy thing? This is just one of several promising sites they're exploring. The Sampaguita gas field and Reed Bank could hold another 4.6 trillion cubic feet of gas. Those aren't small numbers. They're nation-changing numbers. This discovery puts the Philippines in a totally different league. Suddenly, they're not just an emerging economy. They could become a legitimate energy exporter. The timing couldn't be better either, with global energy markets still in flux after the Russia-Ukraine war. In March 2024, President Marcos Jr. signed Executive Order Number 51, which streamlines the permitting process for petroleum exploration. This is a clear signal they're going all in on developing these resources. The Philippine National Oil Company is partnering with major international players like Shell and ExxonMobil to fast-track development. According to industry analysis, these oil discoveries could add another extra 2% to their GDP growth every year for the next decade.
It's a very complex project and one which is very important for Shell and for the country.
Which is absolutely game-changing. And they're being smart about it too. The government just established a sovereign wealth fund called the Maharlika Investment Fund, modeled after Norway's oil fund, to make sure this resource boom benefits future generations.
This is going to be a fantastic milking cow.
It's very clear. We need added investment. This is another way to get that.
The expected revenue? We're looking at potential earnings of $300 to $500 billion over the lifetime of these fields. To put that in context, the entire Philippine GDP right now is about $400 billion. So yeah, I would say that's pretty transformative. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The geopolitical impact.
The Philippine Coast Guard has removed a floating barrier installed by China to prevent fishing boats entering a contested part of the South China Sea.
So the Philippines this year actually introduced a 4-part Coast Guard modernization law.
Most of these discoveries are in the West Philippine Sea, parts of which China also claims. Suddenly, the Philippines has even
hop off their ween. Get out of here. Get out of here, China.
More reason to assert its territorial rights. And with oil in the picture, they've got the attention and backing of major Western powers. Just recently, U.S. energy giant Chevron announced a $5 billion investment plan to help develop these resources. That's not just a business decision. It's a strategic one that aligns American interests even more closely with Philippine sovereignty. Even the stock market is responding. The Philippine Stock Exchange Energy Index jumped 22% since the announcements, with companies like PXP Energy and Felix Petroleum seeing their stock prices double in just 6 months. And it's not just about the money. This discovery is creating thousands of high-paying jobs. The government estimates...
This is like beyond my even comprehension at this point, but it seems like Philippines is on the upward trend of like just skyrocketing.
It's the oil and gas sector could employ up to 50,000 Filipinos directly and another 200,000 indirectly once all these projects are running. We're talking about engineers.
What is the unemployment rate in Philippines? Is it? I feel like it might be high, but let me know in the comments. What is the unemployment rate?
Geologists, riggers, technicians, good jobs that build a strong middle class. What's especially smart is how they're planning to use this energy windfall. Unlike some countries that just export their oil and gas, the Philippines is developing processing facilities to create value-added products. They're building a $15 billion petrochemical complex in Batangas that will turn their natural gas into plastics, fertilizers, and other industrial products. That's how you maximize economic benefits. Oh, and did you know that the Philippines is sitting on a goldmine of rare and earth elements? The same stuff we need for electric cars, smartphones, and all of our fancy tech. In a world where everyone's fighting over these materials, the Philippines is one of the very few democratic countries that actually has them. There's this place called Zambales that has huge deposits of nickel and cobalt, key components for EV batteries. And with the whole world trying to go green, these resources are like the new oil.
According to the Philippine Nickel Industry Association,
they got actual oil and now they got the new oil. Hopefully this ain't on some Diddy stuff. We don't need baby oil, or we only... My bad.
Mining can contribute to sustainable development goals.
Analysts are saying that the Philippines could become a crucial supplier in the global EV supply chain. But they've got this major challenge too. Their big natural gas field called Malampaya is running dry. That's bad news for their energy needs, right?
Kung i-mid-merit natin, ibig sabihin hindi 24 hours, pwedeng 8 hours, pwedeng 12 hours, hahaba pa ito.
It currently supplies about 20% of the country's electricity. Wow. But with these new discoveries, that problem is basically solved. Plus, they're still going all in on renewable energy. What's really impressive is their balanced approach. They're not just betting everything on fossil fuels. Even with these massive oil discoveries, they're still pushing ahead with renewable energy. It's like they're using the oil wealth as a bridge to build a sustainable future. Solar farms, wind turbines, you name it. There's this massive solar project in Nueva Ecija that's going to be the largest in Southeast Asia when it's done. Wow. And they've got all these offshore wind projects lined up too.
By leveraging our abundant solar resources, Terra Solar Project will help stabilize our power supply, reduce energy costs.
According to the latest investment reports, foreign money is pouring into these projects. Companies from Norway, Japan, and Singapore are all jumping in. The Philippines is targeting 35% renewable energy by 2030.
The Terra Solar Project will help stabilize our power supply, reduce energy costs, and contribute significantly to our target of 35% renewable energy share.
And they might actually hit it. What really makes the Philippines special, though, is its people. Over half the population is under 30. That's a ton.
Over half the population is under 30. Let me put that into perspective real quick. Half? Wait, that's kind of insane.
Wow.
Everybody's young.
Of young digital native talent who grew up connected to the world. The digital economy there is exploding. E-commerce platforms like Lazada and Shopee are massive. Mobile wallets like GCash are used by literally millions of people every day. In fact, digital payments...
I even have a GCash card, and I only went there one time.
Grew by like 5,000% during the pandemic, and that trend isn't slowing down.
When the world closed down during the pandemic, we grew more than 3 times from 2019 and to post-pandemic. Last week, we just announced our latest strategic investment from MUFG, and that's worth around 800 million combined investment from both MUFG and Ayala Corporation, one of the largest and most enduring conglomerates in the Philippines.
This generation of Filipinos is just built different. They're tired of seeing their country overlooked. They're entrepreneurial.
I mean, the Philippines is low-key the social media capital of the world. That might actually be a fact. Like, they that screen time is bazillions of hours.
Tech-savvy and global-minded.
They're
the
locked
startup
in.
scene in Manila is on fire right now. Companies like Mint, Gcash's parent company, and Kumu are pulling in hundreds of millions in venture capital.
It was really good money.
I have to carry up this burden.
Look, I'm not saying it's all smooth sailing. They've got their corruption problems too.
Yes.
Government can
That's what I was wondering. That was the only thing I was thinking about when I was like debating doing this video. I was like, they are thriving, so I'm gonna watch this video, but are they gonna talk about corruption? Because that's what a lot of you guys comment to me, is that there is a lot of corruption.
Super slow sometimes, and climate change hits them hard with typhoons and flooding.
Typhoon Gamy has already worsened rains in the Philippines, where at least 12 people have died.
These are real challenges. Wealth inequality is still a huge issue. If you visit Manila, you'll see these ultra luxury condos right next to some really struggling communities. And that's something they need to address if they want sustainable growth. And politics, still pretty messy. The whole Marcos family coming back to power is controversial, to say the least.
It's messy.
Another Marcos would claim the presidency.
More than 30 years ago, then, Ferdinand Marcos was branded a corrupt dictator. Now his son Bongbong is the front runner in next week's election.
But what's interesting is that they're actually maintaining a lot of the economic policies that were working before. Infrastructure is still playing catch up too. The internet speeds are getting better, but still lag behind Singapore and Thailand. Power outages are still a thing in some regions.
Average internet speeds in the country continued to improve in July. That's according to Ookla's Speed Test Global Index.
It's very slow. I can't even. It is actually really slow there. The internet.
And traffic in Manila, legendary bad. We're talking hours just to get a few miles sometimes.
Metro Manila is still the world's worst city to drive in.
It has got out of control, quite frankly.
Productivity of employees are impaired. You have staff coming in late.
But here's the thing, every country faces challenges. What matters is how they respond to them, and the Philippines is showing a lot of resilience and adaptability right now. They're getting creative with solutions too. To fight corruption, they've digitized a ton of government services. To address traffic, they're not just building roads, but investing in mass transit. To deal with climate risk, they're implementing some of the most progressive disaster preparedness programs in the region. And you know what's really cool? The Philippines is also leveraging its diaspora. The millions of Filipinos living and working abroad. They're not just sources of remittances anymore, but potential investors, mentors, and bridges to global markets. There's a program called Balik Scientist that's literally bringing back Filipino experts from places like Silicon Valley to help develop the local tech ecosystem. That's some serious brain gain right there.
Kasi maganda nga yun, may pag-asa kahit walang patubig. Mayroon kang inaasahan na kahit kaunting bagay hamog-hamog lang matuloy-tuloy ang buhay niya.
This recipient parent, it is very high yielding, early maturing, so good eating quality.
And some breaking news to add to this story, the Philippines signed a massive new trade deal with Singapore that's going to pump another $2 billion into their tech sector.
Philippines and Singapore partnership for a green and sustainable future reflects the shared goals of our two countries.
And their stock market up 15% since January. These aren't just random stats. This is a country on the move. But every superpower had its moments. The window of time when it either took off or fell behind. And right now, for the Philippines, the window is wide open. Let's look at the patterns, shall we?
Okay, that's very important. It's not now or never, but it's like, it's now. You gotta strike it now.
Japan had its economic miracle in the 60s and 70s. South Korea boomed in the 80s and 90s. China exploded in the 2000s and 2010s. Who's next? All the signs point to Southeast Asia, and the Philippines is positioning itself to lead that charge. And the geopolitical timing couldn't be better. With all this tension between the US and China, countries that can balance relationships with both are in
You're welcome.
prime position. The Philippines is leveraging its historical ties with America while also maintaining economic engagement with China. That's some expert level diplomacy.
Strategic partnership between the Philippines and the US. The two countries have signed in an intelligence sharing agreement known as the General Security of Military Information Agreement, or GSOMIA.
Here's a breaking update for you.
Wait, what?
the Philippine Stock Exchange hit an all-time high. Foreign investors poured in a record $1.2 billion.
The PSE index hits another milestone.
Dude, they just keep getting better and better. What's happening?
Level ever. PSE index is at it again, scaling new heights on Monday, closing at a new record.
In the first quarter of this year alone. That's big money clearly seeing something here. And speaking of big money, the Philippines just secured a $4.9 billion investment from SpaceX to bring Starlink internet to the archipelago.
The Starlink internet service of
we got good internet now!
Musk set for a December commercial launch in the Philippines.
That's going to be a
Shit, I'm about to move there.
for connecting all those islands. And it's not just Elon Musk either. Google just announced a major cloud region in Manila. Amazon is expanding its AWS operations there. These tech giants don't make these moves unless they see serious potential. So the next time you hear about which countries are shaping our future, don't just think about the usual suspects. Keep an eye on the Philippines. Because sometimes the biggest players aren't the ones making all the noise. They're the ones quietly building something amazing.
That's literally that's like the most perfect description of Philippines. Not the ones making the most noise, the ones that are just kind of humble, being quiet, rising up in the ranks, like a Efrain Reyes type, a Manny Pacquiao type. Always quiet, always humble, but then pa! Absolutely snapping on kids.
Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Do you think the Philippines could become Asia's next superpower?
Let's say, hey, comment down below, for real. What do y'all think?
Let us know. And speaking of moves, our channel is now your #1 source for global business news.
No freaking way, I don't believe you. Actually, no, I believe you. This is actually a really good, really well put together video. EcoNet, shout out to you. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. I mean, to me, it seems like Philippines has all the potential in the world. So let's see what they do with it.